Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining us like in One Energy together to share your views in the breath work and the fasting and all the retreats that you do. So let me give a quick background about him. He's a spiritual leader and expert in breathwork and fasting. So he used to be a personal trainer, but when he traveled to Japan, that's when he got inspired and influenced from the Zen life. And he came back at the same time. He started facilitating what he learned by teaching to his clients. That's when he focused on teaching the deep immersion on how they can change the lifestyle and mentoring them and bringing the focus and clarity to their mindsets, and also giving the confidence for all the people how to express the spiritual insights through the well-beings that they can be. So by looking at him, I got super inspired, and I want to learn more about how he evolved and how things that he changed in his life, and how things helped his clients too. So let's
Yeah, of
begin.
course, from my end, I got to know about Dan from a mutual friend. So especially like I was exposed to the whole world of Zen, once I started, Wim Hof, that was my first introduction. And then I started reading some Japanese books, arigato. It's all about gratitude. It's all about, finding that, being in that moment. So the more I read, then recently, in fact, this year, I came across fasting, which was fascinating. And the more I dig deep, the more science I saw. Of course, there is a lot of culturally, or we have been hearing it from my childhood, but the whole concept of not eating, it itself doesn't sink in for most people, including me. But once I know the why, then everything else, I figured out what and how. So, but today we were privileged to actually learn from somebody who actually wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited. The amount of depth it requires to read this amount of book. So of course, I will start with my first question, Dan. Of course, you wanna quickly say a quick word, or we can kickstart.
Well, I just want to say I'm honored to be here with you guys, and just honored to be portrayed in this light from you. I'm just like everyone else. I have seen a lot of benefit from adopting more of this Zen lifestyle that came in when I first went to Japan, and did a lot of other traveling since then, and dove deeply into the world of essentially new age spirituality. Worked with plant medicines, did a lot of fasting, did a lot of meditation, held a lot of groups, brought people together, and in the process have the book about, it's generally a guideline of how to start doing a proper 3-day fast for the benefits we're going to talk about. And I'll start to share the benefits that I received from it, which pretty much blew me away to the point where I started writing about this and started a coaching practice around how to do this. So thanks so much for bringing me on.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
of course, the first question itself, the word Zen, many people may not know, or there are like hundreds of definitions. But what does Zen life means to you? Like if you can just set the pillars, like how can you consider yourself, having a Zen life? It's a continuous journey, but please speak on it.
Right. Well, the Zen life, I can tell you the story of how the Zen life brand actually came through. So, Yesh, I don't know if you're familiar with a cousin of mine, who's Tom Welch,
Yes,
who
yes, yeah. We did hikes with him.
Yeah, we did the Grand Canyon hike with him.
perfect. Okay, so you know him well. Um, so he and I were hiking at the time, and I owe so much to Tom because he essentially introduced me to Zen life through nature. He was always bringing me out in nature and really deep immersions in nature. And what I realized at the time was I really wanted on social media, I wanted the ability to almost like a permission slip to start speaking more about this stuff. And I was just presenting myself as my name on social media, like I'm sure a lot of us do. But I felt like I was limited on what I could share with family and friends and things like that. So as I was hiking with Tom, I actually started to brainstorm ideas of what is it I want to share with and embody and feel like I'm giving myself permission to, that's not just my name. So I started to think about consciousness exploration, fitness, a whole lifestyle that's surrounded in really getting to the depth of what's important and then letting life sprout out of those things and sharing the science behind those things. And so what came to me is consciousness is a very long name. Fitness is a very long name. So I just kind of like took the words and I said, Zen is very short and life is lifestyle. And it's kind of this elusive thing, like, what is Zen life? And so I created Zen Life Dan, which is on Instagram, it's on YouTube, and it's kind of like just this permission slip for me to really dive deep into it and start sharing on it. And so that was 3 years ago.
Oh, that's nice.
So how did all the like journey started? Because I heard that you guys traveled to Japan and you guys got a lot of inspiration from the culture over there. So how did you guys started it? Like the tiny steps, like the conscious tiny steps. So where everyone around you can learn and start getting there to have that Zen perspective in the life.
Yeah, great question, Priya. So for me, that was one of my first times out of the country, and that was about 4 years ago at this time. Japan was for me. And you know, those of you who have done lots of traveling, I actually had this thought earlier today that traveling, you know how it's just a general interest of people, we like to travel. um it's it's really, that says so much about somebody. If they like to travel, that means they like to exit the borders of their own mind and experience something new with fresh eyes, where they don't have to be the version of themselves that people believe them to be. And that's huge. So I've always wanted that to the nth degree. And so when I went there, it was a complete surrender of the ego that I had built, which was freedom, but it was also gathering the wisdom of the cultures. And, you know, Japan, for example, I think they've done a lot of things right. They haven't done everything right, but they sure as heck have done some things right. So to extract those things and to ultimately, like, here's the biggest thing I got from Japan was just to notice the disposition of people, the temperature of their fire was so like, it was calm and tamed, but you know that they could like kick it into gear if they had to. But they weren't like that. And I just saw it as so beautiful and peaceful and calming that it just stuck with me so much. And I wanted to embody more of that and kind of in a way like bring that, because I wanted to keep that in me. And then when I come back, not like, you know, get you know, for better or worse, like tainted back with how life was. So kind of keep that awe, if you will, the awe that I experienced when I was there.
Nice.
Nice.
That's yeah, that's one place I'm definitely visiting. uh, just the way they excel at something, the baby steps. I love the culture of Japan, especially from books, what I've learned so far. Yet to visit that. But again, coming from a fitness background, I'm sure you pounded the dumbbells, the deadlifts, and, I have followed you, you have been ripped. And again, with the whole idea of fasting, most people, again, everything first comes to your mind, most probably it's wrong. They think fasting may lead you to muscle loss or it's bad for your body. But still, I see now also you're in a very good shape. So can you talk, because you wrote a book on it, can you talk a little bit on the idea of fasting, of course, most people think of fasting, but the real reason is autophagy, the cleansing of the body. So like during the whole research you did for the book, from personal experience, from everything, if you can give people some kind of an outlook of how fasting can help an individual.
Absolutely. Do I have the ability to share screen?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
just give me a second. Yeah, you should be able to do now.
Okay. Let's see here. So I want to share the screen here. Yes, because I do have a fitness background. And like I was saying, at the time, about 5 years ago, I was really into the personal training. And so here's a transformation of what happened when I was in traveling in Peru. And this was before the fasting. And then this was after I applied everything I learned from all my different times fasting, and I came up with a basically a fitness plan for men on how we can incorporate proper fasting. And then this was for I think this was for a movie audition. Actually, if I can remember properly, I didn't get the role, but I felt great in my body, and I learned how to use the proper fasting, like just enough, and then eat when we're supposed to eat, and kind of work with the hormones, leptin and ghrelin, and just make it doable for people. So this was my fasting transformation for men. And I'm telling you guys, look at me here. Anyone can do this. And so I'm really passionate about teaching this. And one thing I love is having the fitness foundation. Um, it's like I can teach fitness like the back of my hand because I know how to do that. But when we start teaching about fasting, it lets the clients and everybody go on their journey, because I don't think you can do fasting without starting to meet areas of your mind that are just so hard, where you just want to give in. And it's about discipline, and it's also like everything in life, it's about knowing why you're doing it. And I've failed in my life at many things, which is why I think fasting was presented to me. Like, I had to master this, or else I was going to continue to fail in my life over and over again at everything I did. And so fasting helped me really like allow that to go into any other area of life. And it's still difficult, but working with the fasting and using that as a checkpoint to really like test myself is great. And the journey that clients go on is incredible, even with a 24-hour fast. And I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but I'll just share this quick fact that is so powerful. So if I'll do it for men and women. So in a 24-hour fast, the human growth hormone raises 2,000% in men in 24 hours. And it raises 1,300% in women in 24 hours. Human growth hormone. So that's what people are paying in big cities across the country to look younger, have more energy, and they'll pay thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for a dose like that. And it comes from going a day without food. So we find this so fascinating. And I don't know if you guys have touched at all on the blog that Yesh has been writing, but a lot of the science that I write about and talk about, like in my book Fast Start, is also on his blog. So Yesh, incredible job. The blog is incredibly detailed. I have to give you
Thank you.
great credit.
Yeah,
So
that's for sure. As you were talking, right? The concept of uh, and if you can say fasting again, you have to always adopt to the fasting, right? Like, there are no hard fast rules that you should only do a dry fast, or so, like, because a lot of beginners may think,
Yeah.
come with their own assumptions. So
Especially being a beginner, when Ashwin started all the fasting or Wim Hof, for me it's like kind of oh my god, can I do it or not? Or it back of my head it always says it's not for me, because coming up in the Asian background, I saw my grandmom or like my mom doing fasting, but I thought they're doing it for a spiritual reason because it just backed up with a spiritual reason. But now when I know the science of it, one thing is my mind, which plays a big role. So how can a beginner think about like have a tiny approach for the fasting, or at the same time even for the Wim Hof too, because the cold showers, the combination of two is like pretty effective. So being a beginner, how like me, how can they start the baby steps into the fasting, and how can they explore eventually? Because when I say I commit for 42 hours fast and my brain plays all the drama after 24th hour saying, oh, I want to eat this food, or I may not do it, the 24 hours might be enough, do I need to do 72 hours, all these questions pops up in my brain like slowly. So how can they adopt by starting it slow and getting there eventually?
Mm. Great place to start is skipping breakfast. Great place. And for some people, that might be a lot. I mean, if people have, people are all across the board. Somebody with diabetes, for example, if they can push breakfast off for an hour, they're fighting so much physiologically that it's equal to somebody fasting for a couple days if it's easy for them. So you got to meet everybody where they're at with that. And one thing I always like to get clear on is when fasting, i I think there's certain degrees of how should I say, there's certain like levels of virtue that you might enter fasting for. So when I started fasting, it actually wasn't for what I showed you. It was just for spiritual reasons and the autophagy. And I thought I was going to lose a lot of the muscle. I really did. But I was okay with that. I surrendered that. And turns out I lost all the problem areas. So a great place to start is, well, I do in how to prepare. We basically talk about a format of just how to write out or to mentally compartmentalize the intention behind fasting. So one thing I always like to do is just touch on like the three areas of what would you like to achieve with your body for fasting, what would you like to achieve for the mind, and what would you like to achieve in your connection to higher power or God. And how can you kind of set just a benchmark that's like measurable for each one of those. And that ultimately spells out the why that's going to push you through. And so after a few bouts of fasting, I would actually really look forward to the hunger, because as we know, that's when autophagy really kicks in. And so I would, it may sound weird because, it goes against everything. But as soon as that hunger kicked in, I would seriously get to a point where I was like, yes, like it's actually working. Because had the hunger not kicked in, the physiological benefits probably wouldn't even be there for the fast. So, in other words, I always tell people to keep it pretty easy during your fasting for exercise. But on your last day of fasting, right when you're about to break your fast, if you have it in you, if you have the energy in you, I would always recommend attempting to do a workout with high intensity intervals. I mean, look, you're gonna eat later that day, but now you're to the point where your body's in such a fertile place to burn fat, to burn the belly fat we think we never can lose. And so I like to think of it as we go through 72 hours of fasting, first 24 hours we enter ketosis. And what's funny about ketosis and keto, fasting is actually better at ketosis than ketosis. So you will enter into ketosis faster if you are eating nothing than you would enter ketosis if you were eating MCT oils and fats and things of that nature. So you basically get into ketosis, and then after about one day you do autophagy where you really get tested mentally with your hunger. But if you can push through that and I believe understand what's happening, if you can understand what's happening and kind of make that mental switch like, yes, we're getting some of the benefits, and you push through it, the second day of a 3-day fast is the hardest, because when you wake up on day 3, you might be thinking, wow, I'm on my 3rd day of fasting, but the finish line is in sight. It's right there. You're going to be saved, you know. And the way I explained doing a 3-day fast is you would stop eating dinner on the first day, so it would make it so on the 3rd day you actually get to eat a dinner in the form of a soup or a juice or something. And if you can fit in a workout with high intensity, that's where I see like those problem areas that people carry start to go away. But the whole duration of day 1 and day 2, easy, light, no strength training, just walking and sauna, steam room, and things like that is what I found to be most effective. And also, um, you know, for myself, I actually like 0-calorie sodas, carbonated waters, teas, coffees, anything that has like less than 10 calories, specifically if those 10 calories don't come from sugar or something that would spike insulin, you're going to be fine. Yeah, so I know there's a roundabout answer, but I hope that
No,
is
that's
something
very true. You know, I'm sure it helps a lot of people. As you said, start with breakfast, and you know, slowly and eventually you can get to 24, 48, and 72. Of course, moving on to the next pillar, of course, breathing. You know that that itself we can talk for hours. You know, the foundation of everything. It was said. So, but if you can talk about the importance of, you know, deep breaths, you know, just I think we can control our mind the way we breathe. Like that's what I read in a lot of books, that as you're tensed, all you need to do is take 10 seconds and take a couple of deep breaths, and everything slows down. So why don't you talk a little bit on breathing uh, as a pillar or as a practice?
Sure. There's so many ways we can approach this. I love talking about the breath. I love practicing it and teaching it as well. And the style that has kind of emerged from what I enjoy and end up teaching in terms of breath work is a breath that's similar to Wim Hof. And for those who may have, you know, investigated breathing or looked into like a natural psychedelic, there's something called DMT that has gained a lot of popularity. And DMT is a organic substance that supposedly is the most psychedelic substance known to mankind, and it's produced in 98 to 99% of species and plant matter in the world, including us. So it's endogenous in our system, and we can activate it through deep breathing. So it's released by the pineal gland, it's released by the lungs, a little bit in the liver, and we feel the effect. So for those who have done like Wim Hof and just deep pranayama power breaths, and we feel that, it's a combination of a few things. So it's like, you know, CO2, it's a little bit of lightheadedness, there's that. But I believe from some of my experiences that this DMT is really felt, and it's, I also believe that it really contributed to my transformation that you guys saw there. Every day I was almost religious about the breathing, and to the point where you really put the work into breath work. It becomes like, you know, you're like almost out of breath afterward. And what's really interesting, and the reason I bring that up is because this has been thrown out a lot in the breathwork community. So I'd have to like fact check this, but I've seen it so much I've almost adopted it. They say 70% of toxins are removed from our body through breath and respiration. So what this means is the sauna is great. I love the sauna. Steam room, fantastic. Tons coming out of our skin, toxins being removed. When we sweat, that's fantastic. But think about what's happening. When we breathe properly, regularly, we're breathing out um, toxins, and we're detoxing through that. So essentially, when we're losing weight, this is how my brain works. A lot of the the problem areas get converted through the process of what's it called there, thermogenesis, and we're expelling a lot of that material through our breathing. So I do believe that breathing also helps lose weight and maintain body composition as well. Plus, having all the oxygen in the bloodstream is just very beneficial for so much physically. So the breath work, you guys can, if you're interested in it, I would recommend you guys take a look at my YouTube page. What I do here is I give a step-by-step guide on DMT breathing, how to do it properly. And I've laid out at this point about 20 to 30 breathwork routines that you can just press play on. And I find that to be cool because somebody who knows nothing about the breathing and they just heard it was good for them, they don't really know how to do it, you can click on pretty much any one of these guided videos here, just press play and follow along, and you'll get the benefits of it right away. So yeah, I guess that's what I would have to say on breathwork to start.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Like you shared the steps on YouTube, right? Especially like in the like being in the corporate world, like having that busy life, taking that 10 minutes out and practicing that breath work, it really helps a lot. Because I started yoga like 6 months ago, and that's when I started working on the breathing techniques and implementing in my day-to-day life. And I saw a drastic difference which is happening like within me. I'm like the high tempered girl, but I just calm down when I'm doing yoga. That helped me a lot. At the same time, I have a quick question too. So many of us are active in some or the other way. Few people do hit, or few people go to CrossFit, or some do running or biking. There are many different activities that everyone picks and have that into their lifestyle. So how following the Zen life and how in like inculcating all these Zen pillars like breathing or doing fasting or Wim Hof, how all these actually help the other activities which everyone love to do, and how they tremendously add benefit. Can you explain that, you know, like
Yeah, yeah. So much is going to be, actually everything is going to be improved when we can just become more conscious and aware of the breath. So, in other words, by setting aside some time to do breath work, do a pranayama routine, and press play on a breath video, make that part of your routine. It'll make you more aware of your breath during the day. And for example, I was just cooking dinner earlier, and I had like, 3 or 4 different things going on at once, but I was able to like have more coherence than I would. I wasn't distracted with so many. I was really enjoying the process of just cooking and being fully immersed in that experience because I was really just focusing on my breathing the whole time. And it's funny, and guys, I kid you not, when you do this enough, the whole day becomes a meditation. It really does. A whole day. And the only reason it wouldn't be a meditation is if your breathing gets interrupted to the point where it's almost like invasive, or I think of it as almost like a violence, a quick thing that where you lose your center of focus gets shifted. But if you can learn to, stay calm during that and be if not be jumpy, and just keep calm, that's very powerful. And a quick way I can share is to keep calm is 2 things with the breathing during the day. And it's funny because if you click on any one of my YouTube videos, you're going to be like, wow, this is intense. It's fast, it's powerful. And the breathing throughout the day should be the exact opposite. Okay, so powerful breaths through the nose and an exhale at the mouth is what you'll notice in my videos, and that's to train the capacity for the body to take in air. So it's kind of like a workout, but you're not working out in CrossFit all day. You do your workout and then you're calm and you recover. So all throughout the rest of the day, keeping the tongue resting gently on the roof of your mouth and just breathing through your nose, inhales, and you can exhale out your mouth. But if you can, for a long duration of the day, exhale as well through the nose, and there's no even need to do mouth breathing ever. And there's a book called The Oxygen Advantage that speaks all about the benefits of nose breathing. The thing I found most interesting is when you have nose breathing going on through the majority of the day. And they go as far as even to tape their mouth when they're sleeping. And as well, you're pressing the tongue on the roof of your mouth like all day, because you're not needing to open it unless you're speaking or eating. So you press the tongue towards the roof of the mouth like this. And what you're doing is you're actually pushing the upper palate outward in every direction. So if you imagine like this is your teeth, you're just spreading it out in every direction. And it's been proven to make the structure of your face more symmetrical by the beauty standards most human beings would agree on. Very fascinating. And the opposite is true for mouth breathers. So if all day long we're just kind of like breathing like that, it tends to make the face, symmetrically speaking, less beautiful over time.
That's true. Yeah, I read the book. I can vouch. Yeah, it breathe light to breathe right. That's the sentence which I stuck to me. But of course, in your videos, I have been gone through your journey. So I have seen alkaline breathing, or like holotropic breathing. Like what? How are they different? Or when you take to regular breathing, can you briefly kind of explain them?
Yeah. I'm actually one to see in general breathing as breathing. I find it very interesting, all the ways we can differentiate, but the way that the alkaline breathing is different from holotropic breathing is alkaline breathing is literally meant to just alkalize the blood and the whole body, so the musculature, just the whole system, just shift it more alkaline rather than acidic. And so we've shown this through breathing through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And then the holotropic breathing, in my experience, is a little bit more of like just trauma release. It's more of a spiritual transcendent experience, holotropic, and it's just a long session that kind of forces emotions to the surface that I find really powerful, because coming from the fitness background and having the understanding that I do about musculature, that's the issues is in our tissues. So when we can get ourselves to the point through those holotropic or shamanic breathwork sessions and laying on the floor and breathing for an hour, I still to this day am just in awe of what comes up, crying and laughing, and just it's very uncomfortable. There's a reason people, not even men in general, but just people, don't go to those places and express those emotions all the time. And so when you get there, it's very telling of what comes up.
Yeah. You just also mentioned about meditating, right? Especially that's like a big word when you look into the social media or anywhere, like meditating for 10 minutes or meditating for 20 minutes or meditating for 1 hour. How can the perspective change? Because if someone says about meditation, I just started a breath work, right? For me, meditating is like a big word. I mean, a lot of thoughts just pound on my head and I really can't focus for like not even more than 10 minutes. So even for breathing, I think, okay, I did like 10 minutes of breathing and then I feel, okay, I think it should be fine. Like how can that perspective change? And as you mentioned, even while you're cooking, you're like conscious and having that breathe going on, and that made you feel good, right? How can that change, or a tiny bit of change can happen, like in any beginner or any individual out there?
That's such a great question. I almost don't know where to start. But there's a lot to be said on that. So like when I'm cooking, for example, and I'm meditating, it's also the flow state. So you hear people talk about flow state. And what is flow state? It's completely in the present moment. And there's more to that. And the more to that is, not only are you completely in the present moment, but how do you know to turn around and grab the pan and cook? It's you are in faith and trusting in your ability to handle what comes next. So you're not caught in the future. You're not thinking about the past. You're staying in the present, but there's a confidence of your ability to deal with what comes next. And for me, that comes back to the breath. If you can stay in a constant rhythm with your breath and just focus on that, if you can be breathing and imperturbable in the breathing and be one with that, um, usually there's no space for extra stuff to come into your mind. And so when you talk about meditating, it's funny because Priya, I agree with you that that word is thrown around everywhere right now,
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's one of those things where, like, for somebody meditating, if you're trying to meditate, and when I first heard about meditation, I was trying to meditate as well, and I realized it was kind of to labor in vain. You what is When you try to meditate, it's you're creating a problem for yourself that doesn't exist. It's the funniest thing that we do as human beings sometimes. But the place that a person who's trying to meditate is coming from is pure. They want to better their life. So what I point people to now for meditation is breath work, because that is a proper pre-meditation. For example, I even now do not like to just sit down and meditate with my thoughts. I don't like to do that because I understand that I'm just marinating in whatever is currently occupied in my mind and letting that grow in me. So if we do a breath work, it's known as a kriya, which is an action that liberates. So it's kind of like dusting off the shoulders of your mind. Now you're ready to meditate. Do breath work, and now you're ready to meditate. Go in nature, walk. Now you're ready to meditate. That is, I think so much of what we do in our days is to just try to reach that moment's peace. And so that is meditation. So, in other words, if somebody is new and they just try to meditate and sitting, they're basically trying to create moment's peace where it's not, you can't create peace right in the situation of right now. You understand?
Yeah,
That's really
that's
true.
very true. Yeah, I just wanna kind of then move to the next topic. As you said, you already mentioned couple of times the idea of course, you, Dan, even Tom, you all have been went to the sessions of going to the extreme cold temperatures. That is one thing which so far I am unsuccessful even making one person do. I follow my I never take a hot shower even. It helps me for my recovery. I can see it, I can feel it, but that's one thing most people resist, including Priya.
Yeah.
I can say she never takes, she did even fasting but never a cold shower. So
Yeah.
but if you can kind of add not just cold, I know there is a lot of benefit in sauna, as you said, the heat, sweating, the extremes which we don't get on a day-to-day basis, but what is the benefit of including them, if not daily, but at least as routines or as rituals once in a while. If you can talk a little bit on those two areas.
Sure. Yeah. So cold therapy, two things are important. So the benefit number one is reducing inflammation. So we've seen this with athletes. They take a ice bath after the workout or a game, reduces inflammation. Immediately, you're going to notice that right away. And you might notice inflammation going away in areas that you didn't even know were inflamed. Powerful. The second thing it's doing is it's boosting your mitochondrial function, which is the powerhouse of the cell, which I find very interesting because the reason that's important is on a scientific level, the mitochondria is like God. It's like the God of the body. It's the powerhouse of your cell. So if we can strengthen mitochondria, we're basically strengthening our ability to do willful action. And I think that's very important. So when you enter into an ice bath, this is what I was taught at my first Wim Hof seminar. I asked, what's the proper breathing when you go in? So they got us do huffing and puffing before to get ready to go into it. And so you do your session of power breathing, and then there's a time gap. There could be a minute or two, you're waiting in line to go, And I said, okay, well, when you enter the water, how is it you should breathe? And I'll never forget this. They said, when you go into the water, breathe as if you're trying to fall asleep. So what does that sound like? Well, you take an inhale, and it doesn't matter how long the inhale is, the exhale is twice as long. And it's slow and it's through the mouth, and you can do what's called pursing your lips. You just kind of tighten your lips a little bit and kind of push the air out slowly, and your diaphragm and your abdominals will just tighten, and you want to just extend the exhale as long as you can, and then take your next breath in slowly and really double the length of the exhale. And that's similar to falling asleep. um, and it's basically just trying to blunt that response of getting, shock like that. It's constantly trying to bring the energy down. And it's interesting how even this motion, how I can depict this to you guys, it's what a qigong move is. You bring the energy up, and then to control it and cool your body's energy down, as you exhale, you just do this. So that's what you're attempting to do when you first get into the ice bath.
Yeah, I think breathing is again the important technique over here, because I tried cold shower a couple of times. I couldn't even be there like for a minute, because like the breathe goes, like my heart rate goes up, the breathe
Mm.
goes up. It's like a huge activity. And again, I resist there. Okay, this is not my thing. So that's one thing which I need to focus and work on to get better at it. But at the same time, I also want to talk about the like how it actually helps, as you mentioned, the breathing. For me, I see a lot of difference when I go out in the winters and summers. For me, going out in the winters and the winter run is like a huge I can't even take a breath to my through my nose. I just open my mouth, and as you said, like I just pounded all the breathing and everything through the mouth. So
Mhm.
how can people like that, how can they work on like with the temperatures outside, and how can they get used to the temperatures and have that normal breathing than taking it with the mouth?
Mhm. Yeah, great question. Same thing happens to me. And like I say in all of the YouTube breathworks, if you guys follow those, you'll start with the nose breathing, and even in a not cold temperature, you'll start to get a burning sensation in your nose if you're not used to breathing through your nose. And if you go outside and it's cold, you start to freeze your nose, and then you get a brain freeze.
Yeah.
No, so what I would say is always just start the breath through your nose if you can. And if it's cold, go more slowly. And it's the same with exercise. If you'd go for a run when it's cold in the New York City winter, you experience it, or a walk or cycling. It's start and you'll understand that the slower you inhale, the easier it is. But you get to a point where you have to switch to mouth breathing, and that's okay, because at least you started with nose and you're getting as much of that benefit as possible. Because I don't want to paint mouth breathing in a bad light by any means, because it's still breathing and it's what we need to ventilate. And if you look at the word ventilate, it means wind, and it means to pass through us what we need. So any type of exercise where you start with the nose and then go to the mouth is still very good.
That's awesome. Yep. Thanks for giving that quick insight. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. No,
Absolutely.
but another thing I got to know from going through, like you do physical retreats, and the whole idea of
Yeah.
getting unplugged, getting and
Unplugged
even
from social media, like the other activities.
like
And
when I was initially talking to you, you said fasting means it's just not from food, it's from people, it's from
the negative aspects in your life, like everything. So how do you work on all these? Because especially when you go into the nature or doing some hike, nothing comes on like into your brain, right? Everything is like a happy positive moment. But as you mentioned, like when you're doing it alone and sitting at home, you don't see that vibe. Especially I don't see that vibe anywhere.
Mhm.
So how do you do that, like having that nature retreats and having like putting away those negativity, like coming through and all the stuff,
Like taking a break from,
the
the
regular
busy,
life. Yeah.
life.
Okay, so I think I understand the question, but is there the main question there? What is it?
No, in general, like the importance of taking these breaks, like.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, I think we just get so immersed in the problems that we're working on that we forget that there's a world without problems. And that is, what Mother Nature's provided us. So I love to get out there and just see that perspective. And like I said, Tom, who brings us on a lot of hikes, or um, myself, who's partnered with some other people and organized a lot of nature retreats, is it's really amazing, guys. I'll tell you some of the testimonials that I've gotten from people who have been hardworking for so long and who come and unplug. And we do guided breathing and a little bit of fasting, and some of the retreats are specifically working with plant medicines to have that spiritual transcendent experience. I think so many people are just looking for honestly a connection, as well, that come to a retreat, and also like the right people who want to support them in the new journey that they might be going on, as far as um well, I mean, it can get lonely, when you awaken or have an enlightening experience, because if you tell that to other people, they might actually have that too, but they think you're crazy. And so we've adopted this in the society to to not talk about how powerful and we really are, and spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. But that's the type of people that come together, and just to be supported in that experience. And then, in my opinion, the most important thing is reintegrating back into your life. And I've held retreats in Peru where we go down and we eat the natural fruit, and we unplug from the world, and we do the plant medicine ceremony, and we're all supportive. But people have to come back to their lives. And if it's just back to the same thing after that, it could be worse. So it's really also about supporting like the right transition, and figuring out the right things that we can start doing, and the right things that we can like remove from the old environment that people return back to. Because that's the whole thing, life goes on. Retreats are great, unplugging is great, but the reason successful people do that less is because they are working and are figuring out ways to problem solve and always in the work. But I get told all the time from successful people in their working career how much they wish they could come to a retreat with me. And so then they do. And it's just about finding the balance of the two worlds, because people, we always have to return back to our work and our family and our real life. And that's what we need to improve, because I love you guys, but I don't want you forever.
That's true.
Yeah, having that balance actually takes a huge place, being in the busy corporate career these days. So I've also heard like be it a fasting, be it a Wim like all these Zen methods, doing it as a group, because focusing by yourself, you mentioned me, like there will be a lot of negative thoughts which pop ups in your brain. So how can a group really do that and like motivate each other and have that tiny steps to get there?
Mhm. Great. Yeah. Leaders like you guys, you know, why is everybody here on the call? It's powerful what you guys are doing. And the more that you can share this and create within the community, the more you can create challenges or things to be a part of, or things for support and accountability. That's everything. I'm sure a lot of people won't be jumping in cold water if nobody was telling them to. Nobody was telling them about the benefits. People sharing those pictures of the success and positive reinforcement on those pictures. It's everything, and just remembering like the real reason and the root of why we're doing it is to better our health, to better our life, to better um, our family, our love, everything. So in my experience as well, it's also been, like retreats in person as well as like online challenges. And I have a Facebook group as well. So a lot of people who've seen the YouTube videos, they click the link in the description, they request to join the group, and it's just like-minded people like this. So I always love the connections that we make, because at that point, you know, when somebody connects with you on this level of frequency already, there's so much less translating that you need to do with your words and your language. They just get you.
That's really
That's
true.
very true.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Dan. Of course, we pretty much asked you every area, but this is kind of more like a rapid fire to know a little bit more about you. So, like the first question I want to ask is, do you believe and live by any quote in your life? Quotation.
I do. So one of my favorite books, in fact, I listened to it earlier today. And by the way, my foundational root belief is Christianity. And I stepped away from that in my exploration of New Age. But I've returned back to it in a lot of ways. But one of the books I love is the Tao Te Ching. It's the Taoist philosophy. So a lot of the Stephen Mitchell translation of the Tao Te Ching in all of, you know, what I've understood from reading a lot of spiritual texts, it just solidifies it and brings it right home for so many, for you to just grab and just munch on. And I love it so much.
That's awesome.
Nice. What are your weaknesses?
Weaknesses is translating all the thoughts that I have in a way that's most understandable for many people, which is why I'm proud of the book, because somehow, some way I was able to get it all wrapped up in there.
Okay, that's very true. Most of us struggle for sure there. If you were to give one book to everyone, I know, remember you met, which book would it be?
It would be The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
The Four Agreements. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
definitely adding to my checklist. What do you say to yourself 10 years younger? You know, Dan, who is 10 years younger, how would you guide him?
That's a great question. 10 years younger. Wow. So I'd have been 18 at that point. That's a great question. I can't believe you came up with this, put me on the spot. I would say just learn from other people's mistakes. And that's almost a tough advice, because in the way I see things, nothing is a mistake if you learn from it. So yeah, I would just say not be afraid of failure.
No, that's
awesome.
That's one thing I learned too. Yeah, great. And of course, like imagine you have a billboard, you know, where everybody pass through. What would you write on it? And you know, where everyone's, you know, who's passing by would see it. What would it be on that?
Oh my gosh. It would be something along the lines to remind people to take a deep breath.
Breathe in, maybe.
Yeah.
That's very true. Of course. What do you think biggest myth what most people believe in?
In terms of health or life in general?
In life or general, like you can both, maybe you can.
Yeah. I would say the myth that most people think is that like is probably that happiness is something that can be like put outside yourself to get, but when you get there, you'll still be the same way that you are now. So it's about learning how to access happiness and gratitude now. And the reason I say that is I have so many people who have done very well financially or in certain areas of their life, and they thought it would bring them happiness, but it brought sometimes more torment. So it's so funny because you see people, from third world countries, children smiling, happy, so joyful, and it's almost like those same people will become confused or resentful or angry why they can be so happy. And it's like perspective and gratitude absolutely is what it is, I think. So uh, unlearning that lie that like true happiness can be outside. I believe that there's levels of happiness that you can achieve and like levels of foundational stability that leads to lots of happiness. Uh, than like poverty, absolutely, but just being able to be happy now with the scale of where you're at is what I would say.
Oh, that's so profound.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the last question: where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I see myself consulting with um, people of who have like larger influence on large organizations, or maybe in realms of like politics or that area. So helping people sort out everything and make sound decisions for the greater good of themselves and for everyone else.
Wow,
That's a
definitely. Would love to be part in your journey, but of course, closing thoughts. I know you have a workshop in some time, and before thank you so much first of all for taking out your time, coming and sharing your wisdom to with us.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, maybe we'll just open the chat for a minute. If people have any questions, they can
Yeah.
just type in for you to answer. At the same time, I like you can also say like your YouTube channel and the book, so people can go there and have that day-to-day practice by learning from your videos and reading your book, especially. That would be great.
Excellent. Okay. So in the chat, I just put 3 links. Top one is YouTube. The middle one is my website to get my book.
Perfect.
And with the book actually comes the herbs. So this is the herbal autophagy blend. So all organic herbs. It's going to boost your autophagy. It won't break your fast. You mix it with water. You mix it with coffee, whatever you like, and it's going to boost your fasting benefits and really decrease hunger as well. So these both go together. So that's the middle link there, and the last link. Believe it or not, you guys, in 1 hour's time, I'm leading a online breathwork class with about 12 other people, and we will be doing breathing for actually about 25 minutes. And in terms of the actual length, we're breathing together. So that'll be tonight, starting in 1 hour's time. If anybody would like to join as well. So also would love to answer any questions if anybody has some.
Yeah. So guys, it's open. Before parting. Uh, yeah. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to text them in the chat box. But yeah, we are looking forward to continue. I know definitely we want to join one of your retreat
For sure.
and and join your breathing workshops as well. Then so yeah, so somebody asked, how often do you do a 36-hour fast?
36-hour fast once per quarter. So 4 times per year is plenty. That's how often I do them. But I think like in the baseline of just getting started, you can do them more frequently. So you can do it twice per month to get going and kind of get the benefits of essentially like eating away at the things that might cause disease down the road. That's really the biggest benefit I try to get across is this is like prehab against future disease. When we can start to eat our own body, the body's so smart it actually starts to break down the things that would later turn into problems down the road. I think that's so cool about the body is it's not just going to eat away at muscle or bones or like your brain. No, it's actually breaking down things that might cause problems in the future if you never get to a state to access those as fuel. So great question,
Yeah.
We
Leo,
have
Tara.
another question asking, let's say when we go into the cold weather, we have running nose, right? So even if we have that running nose or maybe anything like tonsils or any of those, how can we still continue to inculcate the nose breathing and see the benefits,
And
or
like,
slowly just avoid the running nose or having the better like the breathing part over there?
Yeah, doing some cleansing along with it because the runny nose is postnasal drip, so it's the body trying to remove mucus. It's a good thing. Runny nose is a good thing, but we have to like fully let that come out of the nose. So blowing your nose, getting that fully out, so that you can breathe properly through your nose is a great thing. So doing as much mouth breathing as necessary during that time, it's okay.
Perfect.
Great
yeah,
question.
that's for sure it helps. Any more questions? I see.
Yeah, Lord, I would say some information on Qi is I do have like a morning routine for Qigong. It's something I do every morning out in the sunlight. Now that we have some sunlight here in New York in the morning, I'll go outside and try to get as much sun on my eyes, just very gently. First 5 minutes of sunlight to reset circadian rhythm, but getting it on the skin is good as well. So Qi, that's energy. So it's almost in the word. It's so cool. Um, Tapping, waking up the body like this. I have a video kind of outlining that on my YouTube channel. But there's so much on chi, and uh, breath work, in a sense, is chi cultivation. So it's kind of working with your energy and building that up as much as possible. So there's a lot to be explored on the YouTube channel for that. Good question.
That's perfect. Maybe you can also share your Facebook group link so whoever are interested may can join the Facebook group that you have and see the benefits of that too.
Perfect. Yeah, let me go ahead and share that right now. And if you hold on one second. There we go. Okay, so that's the Facebook group right there. You guys are all welcome to join.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Dan.
am already in
You're
that
very
group.
welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Thanks a
of course.
lot.
Thank you so much. I know you have again things to take care. So
Sure.
thanks for hopping in.
Thanks for everyone who hopped on and who learned from you.
Sure. If anybody else has further questions, you can, of course, reach me on Facebook or wherever you find me.
Yeah, perfect. See you
Okay.
guys. Maybe next month we'll come up with another thing
Yeah,
and
our
keep
goal is
everyone
to,
posted.
yeah, so as much as what we are learning, we want to share that message to everyone. And eventually, it's like, as you said, you give before you take. So looking forward to have more of these sessions and have bigger and greater relationships. But have a good night, guys, and
Yeah.
take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Night.